Welcome to the Check Your Art podcast, a place where we discuss the intersection of faith and creativity.
Join us each week as we explore new ways to use our gifts to glorify God and inspire others.
Hey, hello, how are you? Good? That's good. If you didn't answer good, I'm sorry. I don't have any standard responses for that, but my name's Jasmine. Her name is Arnold.
Yeah,
And
Palmer.
you're a lemonade sweet tea drink.
That's what I am. That's
true.
Yeah.
And your name is not Megan.
No.
That would be dumb.
Don't even know a single Megan.
No.
Mm-mm.
Yeah, it's not actually a name.
Actually, you made it up. Yeah.
Yeah, I'm pretty good at that.
Congrats. Pat on the shoulder.
Yes, but we are Check Your Art podcast here. And they're here today,
With us.
listening or watching with your eyes or your ears, which is very cool.
Mm-hmm.
And we're going to talk about things. This is another 2-part series about money.
Money, please.
Money, please. And so this week we're going to be talking about pricing your work, hourly pay, and then next week we're going to be talking about stewardship, But before we get started, Megan,
Hey,
Arnold.
Arnold. It's not my name.
Arnold,
Arnold.
how are you?
Pretty good.
That's good.
Yeah, I'm about to go on a trip, which I'm excited for. I'm going to Ireland. I know, crazy.
Very cool.
Yeah, I'm super excited. But so I'm good. I've just been packing. I'm a little nervous just because I haven't flown by myself before, and this is the first kind of trip where I'll be flying by myself. But I've done it so many times, so I'm like, well, that's gonna be fine.
It'll be normal.
Yeah, super normal. Very cash money.
Extremely cash money.
Yeah. So it'll be fun. I'll be visiting my friend who's been living there for a couple months.
Mhm.
Not permanently, just for fun. And yeah, but so I've just been packing. That's kind of the main thing happening in my world. Oh, and yeah, no, that's about it. Yeah,
Packing. Perfect.
yeah. How are you? How are you doing?
I was going to just ask myself if you didn't.
Yeah, no.
Yeah. I'm good. I've been chilling immensely. Work. And I just feel like I also had a really busy week and I have not cleaned or folded a single cloth.
A single clothes.
Yeah, but all good stuff. I feel like I'm vibing, but my house is not vibing.
That's fair.
So that's life.
Yeah.
Sweet. So we're both alive, and that's really cool.
Chilling, vibing,
Dude, all the time.
thriving, maybe even
Thriving
a little sometimes.
under God's glorious grace.
You said it.
Smacks. Okay.
Yeah.
But yeah, so today we're going to be talking about pricing your work. Like I said at the top, it is going to be a 2-part series about money. And with this one, we're going to be discussing kind of hourly pay rates, and what goes into pricing an item. So because you sell art pieces, you're usually going to be on the good side, which is setting a price for everything. And then for me, that's more on the services side where I am performing a service, i.e. singing, playing an instrument, whatever. I'm usually going to charge hourly depending on the circumstances. So I think we can start with just kind of the base note of what we bring to the table as creatives is not this free thing that we were just handed.
Yeah.
I didn't wake up and I could sing.
Right.
And you didn't wake up and you could paint.
It's an art form.
Yeah.
Practice. You get better at your craft through dedication and practice.
Time and money goes into learning how to do this better than someone who just woke up and decided, oh, I'm going to be a singer, I'm going to be a painter, I'm going to be a designer, a writer.
Yep.
So I think we just start at acknowledging the value of creatives and what they bring to the table. It's just as valuable as any other field or position in the church. Pastors go to school, worship leaders go to school, artists go to school,
People in law go to school.
people in law go to school. So it's imperative that we acknowledge that it's kind of at the point in, I guess, this day and age where we're realizing that creative jobs are jobs.
Yeah. And they are just as important and as much, usually around as much work as quote unquote normal jobs.
Yeah.
The traditional job.
Yeah.
Yeah. So we kind of both agreed that there's not really a scriptural basis on this. And I think part of that is because it's a somewhat newer concept of like, there weren't really, you didn't hear about at least people in the Bible who would like make art or sing and get money for it.
Yeah.
So, but there is something in Leviticus that is kind of along the lines of what we're talking about. And we're not going to base the whole conversation just on this scripture, but we are just going to talk about it a little bit and just, recognize that it is mentioned. So in Leviticus 25, verse 14, it says, "And if you make a sale to your neighbor or buy from your neighbor, you shall not wrong one another." So the context here is essentially to avoid rampant capitalism, as you had put it up, and basically to have them not end up oppressing each other. So there's like a fairness, there's some kind of system where, there's like both parties benefit. So that's kind of the gist of like society today too. Even though we, at least in the U.S., live in a pretty capitalistic world.
It's very capitalist.
Yes. Or capitalist. I don't think capitalistic is a word. Is it?
Did you say capitalist?
I did.
I didn't hear.
Okay, well, it didn't happen then.
Got
it. So yeah, but this just kind of shows that God cares that stuff like this is done well and done fairly. So, yeah, like you were just saying, singing isn't a free thing. Art isn't a free thing. You don't just like wake up and are good at what you do. You practice. So just because something comes across as easy, which I think oftentimes art or singing or whatever comes across as like effortless and like you didn't really have to practice or do much to go in to make it. And I think a lot of times abstract art even gets this bad rap.
Yeah.
Of like, you just put lines and blobs on paper. What's in that? Like, I could do that. It's like, yeah, but did you? And I mean, there are people who will buy this.
Yeah.
For a good amount, for what's fair. So, anyway, that just because it comes across as easy doesn't mean it should be diminished. Like, doesn't mean the value should be diminished or anything like that.
Yeah, I think, I don't know. I feel like before we get into the more practical stuff, I really consider the fact, like, people have been like, oh, well, you sing at this. And I'm like, well, like, are you going to pay me? And they're like, probably not. Would you like to be paid? And it's like, well, you're asking me to perform a service. It really depends. And then it's like, if I'm singing, I can't eat sugar or dairy. I have to drink more water. There are like things that happen throughout the week that I have to prepare myself and deprive myself. And there's like time commitments for like practice.
Yeah.
So now I'm not doing things I want to do because I have to practice to do this for you. I don't just wake up and I'm like, okay, I know every song and I'm good at this. And I think like that perspective is a lot like when people learn what goes into being like a waitress.
Yeah.
They're like, why should I tip? All they did was bring me my food. Not necessarily.
They did a lot.
Yeah. So I think like acknowledging that there's a lot that goes on behind the scenes of like preparing for performance art or the time and dedication that goes into like tangible forms of art is really important. And so that is going to feed into setting a price.
Yeah.
So I think baseline, we consider that artists put a lot of time and money into honing their skills. I did a residency, and that was a sacrifice of a lot of time and Um, that's how I learned to do what I do. And I know that you've taken classes for therapeutic art and
also learning how to do art.
period.
Period. Yeah. Yeah, so it's a time commitment. Like, we're investing in ourselves, and then we're essentially able to use this like knowledge that we've learned and put it out into the world so that people can benefit from it, and so that we can benefit because we love doing it.
Yeah.
And we like to get paid to do it.
Yeah. Yeah, I think like it elevates itself beyond a hobby at a certain point.
Yes.
So I think just like talking about practical stuff, what to consider when setting an hourly rate. For me, I consider, what do I get paid at my normal job?
Yes.
Because at the end of the day, I kind of want to be making around the same.
Right.
And then I will also consider the time commitment. I'm probably really only going to be doing like 3 hours of actual on-site. But then, am I going to practice twice during the week? For how long? I'm charging for those hours because it's work. Is there setup and teardown time? If so, that also factors in. And what equipment I need to provide for myself also factors in. So it's, for me, typically pretty okay, because a lot of the times I'm going through a church and I can just be like, hey, this is what it is. And they're like, okay, here's your money. Other times they're like, we will pay you this amount to do this thing, accept or decline. And that's also easy. Especially because they feed you a lot of the time. That's very helpful. Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm definitely more likely to take a gig that I get fed at.
Yes. Yes.
And so for me, that's, most of what goes into it. I'm pretty charitable, honestly.
Yeah.
But it's because I think that I, like, enjoy more the actual doing of the thing. Like, I love to sing, you know? And so I'm going to do my best to be able to do it, but still respecting my time and what goes into that. Travel expenses.
That too. That's important.
Yeah. If it's far, gotta give me gas money.
For sure.
Gas money. Money, please.
Exactly.
But yeah.
Yeah, and I think, it's like what you were saying, you're charitable because you love doing it. And like people say, you should do the thing that you love to do so much that you would do it for free.
Yeah.
Doesn't mean that you actually will do it for free. Don't do it for free is what I'm saying. And like, but at the end of the day, that like, even if you weren't getting paid for this, or you were getting paid very little, you would still enjoy it because it's something that you love to do. Again, get paid for your work. Ask for a fair price, but the passion is also important. So another thing is like, if you're kind of lost and you're like, I don't even know what to price my work at, especially if it's not an hourly thing. Because like if it's an art project, you spend hours doing it. So it's like, I can't charge like even $10 an hour because if I spend any more than 30 on this, and if it's like the tiniest thing, you know what I mean? Like it's sometimes it feels unfair to price it that way. Not always. But you can consider, what I like to do is compare other artworks and like other artists that I've seen or that I know, or even I'll ask them like, how much do you price this kind of thing? How do you get to that price in your head? So getting advice from other people is helpful, but also seeing what they price it at is a good way to gauge like, okay, this is their expertise level compared to my expertise level. This is what they're charging compared to what I'm charging. That might help. Also, if you need to buy any materials for this project, or if you have materials on hand, but still like there's still materials you're using that you wouldn't have otherwise used necessarily if it weren't for this project or commission that you're working on. So consider that. Consider you could even, like, yeah, even though I just said it's hard to do an hourly rate, you still could do an hourly rate.
It's at a really low hourly rate.
Yeah, it's $5 an hour. If it takes you 15 hours, that's math that I can't do at the moment, but not bad for, I mean, I could do it.
5 times
5 times 10 is 50. So
I do it like
I don't know. 5 times 5.
I say 15 times 5.
Yeah.
15, 15, 15, 50, 30, 30, 75.
75. There you go.
That's right. Yeah.
I don't know.
Yeah.
Yeah.
No, it
is. Yeah, because 5 times 10 is 50. 5 times 5 is 25. 50 is... This has been Math with Megan and Jasmine. Check your math.
math your art.
Math. Perfect. So that's like another, just a few things you can take into consideration. And something I think is also important to mention is like, just because you're a Christian doesn't mean you should feel like you should do things for free. I said it. Uh-oh. Or for a lower price even.
Yeah.
And that's not to say that, like, if you are doing that, you're doing a bad job or, like, that's bad. That's not the case. But just, like, value yourself, you know? If you feel like what you're charging is valuable and you are, like, getting out of it what you want, then by all means, charge $20 for a canvas.
Yeah.
I wouldn't do that. A minimum for most of my canvases would be, like, 40 or 50. And, like, I should charge more. And that's pretty low on the spectrum. So, like, I want to raise my prices, and I will. Don't worry, everybody. I know that this might sound hypocritical, but I will do it. I also haven't really sold or, like, advertised art in a while. So, you know. But similar to, like, art pieces, my therapeutic art sessions are a service, but they are all compacted, like, as a thing. Mm-hmm. So it's not going to be like a 3-hour thing. It's like an hour and a half. Mm-hmm. And it's priced at one price, and we have one goal, one accomplishment, and you get out of it like one art project of sorts. Yeah. So it's still kind of like materials used, time, expertise, like all that is being considered in my price. And even that I could probably charge more, but I'm getting there. Don't worry. But yeah, is there more that you wanted to add on to that?
Not necessarily, just like keeping in mind the idea that you, as a newcomer to an art, maybe should consider that as you price things. I love new artists in any space, mm-hmm. but I think sometimes I see artwork and I'm like, that is really great. It is not the quality you think that it is. We need to be comparing to other people, because I'm not going to charge the same price that, like, someone who's been leading worship for 10 years is going to charge.
Yeah, that's also very valid.
Yeah. Because I know I'm not there. I know I don't have the skill set. I know that I don't bring to the table what they could bring potentially. And I think that's true across the board. Like, my first book is not going to be a New York Times bestseller. And so I'm not going to price it that way. Even though that's like a whole publishing thing that I'm not going to even try to get into right now. So yeah, that's unless I was self-publishing on Amazon. But again, yes, heavily. Just like, I think that this is a topic that requires a lot of self-awareness. And so hopefully we've brought some of that and some good things to consider. But I think it's also worth continuing that conversation.
Yeah.
And if you want to do that, we have DMs.
We do.
We have a comment section.
Yes.
We have the ether.
The ether.
If you just shout into the void,
mm-hmm.
maybe we'll shout back.
We might hear you. Yeah. We're listening. One super quick thing I wanted to add before we completely wrap up is back to, like, the pricing at elevated or different tiers. Mm-hmm. You're meeting people where they're at. So, like, you're accommodating different target audiences, if you will. So, like, a big church has the budget and wants the kind of presence of a 10-year experienced worship director. A smaller church may not care about that, may not want to put in all the effort and money into that. Same goes for art, for like pieces. Like you can get something a little bit cheaper and that you are selling that is like less because you are not as experienced as other people, and people will buy it still.
Yeah.
And then there's people who like are very into collecting art and want to spend more because it's like a hobby for them, or it's like they want to support the artist in that way. So all that to say, like, price your work fairly, but also, be mindful of like your experience and then also what you're doing, and like don't feel bad about pricing your work super low or super high, because it's all about being fair, all about meeting people with their specific budgets even. And again, we're here to talk. We're here to if you need like more advice, if this didn't really cover your questions, or if you want just more feedback on something, if you're like, does this seem fair? We like talking to people.
We do.
Tired of talking to each other.
Tired of talking to each other. Tired of telling you to raise your prices.
Yeah. Maybe next time we talk, all my prices will be higher. Don't think your head. That's rude.
Yeah, I'm rude. Okay, have a good day. Drive safe. Love you.
Love you more.
That was fun. Let's do it again sometime.
If you like watching podcasts, we're on YouTube. If you're more of a listener, we're on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, and elsewhere in the ether.
Follow us on Instagram and TikTok, where we share shorter clips and fun little bloopers.
Okay, bye.